morning, everyone. I would like to call the meeting to order and acknowledge that we are in Treaty 1 territory, the home and traditional lands of the Anishinaabe, Innu, and Dakota peoples, and in the national homeland of the Red River Métis. Our drinking water comes from Shoal Lake 40 First Nation in Treaty 3 territory. My name is Carrie Linklater. I am your chairperson today, and I am joined on the panel by Mr. Ian Mann and Mr. Richard Whitbread. Our city assessor this morning is Mr. Jonathan Spacek, and our administrative personnel is Ms. Nicole Carnegie. To the Zoom participants of the hearing, please note you are placed in the waiting room until your property is called upon. When it is your turn, you will be admitted into the meeting. Kindly follow along on the City of Winnipeg's revision YouTube for the channel hearing process. Once the host admits you into the hearing, please close or mute your YouTube player. You will be then permitted to speak with respect to your property. Once your hearing has concluded, you can leave the meeting. We will be hearing applications for revision of the assessment roll in accordance with the Municipal Assessment Act. The matters for which revision is requested have been described in each application, and we will limit discussion to those matters. The statements that are made at this hearing are sworn testimony, and anyone speaking to the matters must be sworn in. Be advised that comparisons of assessments of properties are not considered evidence of market value by the Board of Revision. The Board of Revision is appointed annually by Council and is independent of it and the City Administration. It makes its decisions on the basis of the evidence provided at this hearing and issues a written order that will be mailed to all parties as soon as possible. Please note that the board's decisions with respect to an application may be appealed to the Manitoba Municipal Board if the matter pertains to assessed value or classification, or to the Court of King's Bench if the matter pertains to the application of exemptions from taxation. Should you wish to appeal, information on how to do so will be included with the board's order. With respect to the hearing process, I will confirm the points of appeal with your property to be addressed with each applicant following the swearing in. We will then have the assessor's testimony, followed by questions that the applicant may have, and then the applicant's testimony followed by questions. Each side will have an opportunity to summarize if they wish. Once all of the evidence about an application has been brought forward, the applicant may leave. The process will repeat for each item on the docket today. The session will close after all the applications have been heard, and the board will deliberate in private and make its decisions. You will receive the board's decision by registered mail as soon as possible. And as information, all public hearings are live streamed, recorded, and will be part of the public record. This morning, we will be hearing items 1 through 7 on our docket. And Ms. Carnegie, could you please affirm the assessor and the applicant's testimony?
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Mr. Assessor, please state your full name.
Jonathan Spacek.
You affirm that the evidence you're about to give at this hearing is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth.
I do, yes.
Thank you. Mr. Neufeld, please state your full name.
Rocky Neufeld.
You affirm that the evidence you're about to give at this hearing is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth.
Yes, I do.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you. Good morning, Mr. Neufeld and Mr. Spacek. And our first property we are looking at this morning is 1895 Brookside Boulevard. And I see we have a supplemental on this property. Mr. Spacek, if you would like to begin for us.
Yeah, no problem. We are looking at roll number or file number 23-367. This is 1895 Brookside Boulevard, roll number 14100128045. We have a 2023 supplemental value of $10,860,000. Mr. Neufeld and I heard this property in 2023, and since then, the property has been updated due to an addition. So they constructed a 17,710 square foot addition with a 3,190 square foot mezzanine. and we're using an effective date of January 1st, 2023. So then the supplemental has went out with this new square footage and this picture being added. So we're looking at the Peterbilt building where they sell their trucks. You can see on page 2, the top view of at the top of the picture is the view before the addition. You can see page 2, which is a street view of the property. And then on page 3, we have a more updated photo, and you can see the larger white roof addition that was added to the property. There are some pictures later in the brief, which we can go through just to show the building was inspected when the addition was added, and some pictures were taken. But in total, the valuation of this property in page 5, what has changed is now it's a larger square footage. So we have all the square footage under the leasable area here on page 5. We have 76,176 square feet throughout the building. That is the large one-story building, and then the added mezzanine space all blended in one rental rate of $9.95 a square foot. This is under our vehicle dealership heading, which I'm sure everyone here has had some dealership hearings in the past, but this is one of our dealerships. I won't say it's an odd one, but it's on the outskirts of where our normal dealerships are, where you see most of the vehicle dealerships on the main hubs of the city. But this is a truck dealership on Route 90, or sorry, on Brookside. We have all the standard parameters for those dealerships. So this is giving us a vacancy loss of 2% for 2023, 3% expenses, $6 shortfall, and a 6.55% cap rate. Again, this is a blended building now with the original building built in 2004 and the newest portion of the building built and completed for 2023. And it gives us an effective year of 2010 across the whole building. If you turn to page 6, I have our large list of VCD global rental rates I'm sure everyone has seen before, but it's not the greatest list for dealerships. We put together what we could for the big box stores that actually have net rents and are larger sizes on main strips, similar to the other dealerships. But when it comes to a dealership on Brookside, not a ton of comparables in there, but our global list of big box retails works out to 1801 across the city, and our building on Brookside is at $9.95 a square foot. If you turn to page 10, I've included the older mailer for the property. So this is before the addition, because the reference date is April 1st, 2021. So the 2021 mailer was sent in, and this one had 47,490 square feet. Again, it's filled out as fully owner occupied, so there's not a ton of useful information on there. Page 10, the COVID questionnaire we sent out. On page 12 and 13, this has not impacted the property at all. And then on page 14 are just some of the photographs that were taken during the inspection for the addition, so you can see the quality of the finish there of the vehicle bays and some of the mezz space near the bottom of the picture on page 14. And I just included the page, I've just included the permit for the construction on page 15, so you can see those details. And if you have any questions on that, please let me know. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Neufeld, any questions?
Yeah, I'm just writing one down. 1 second. Certainly. Now, starting on the first page, the areas that you have, what was the source of this material?
For the area?
Yeah.
Original square footage was updated from when I looked at the history of the property. It looks like there was we had it at 50. I forget what the oldest. So I used to have the brief open where we were at. I believe we were around 55,000 approximately, and then with the addition and the inspection, combined with the mezz space, we're at 76,170. So that was put on by whoever did the new construction or the addition.
Was any of this compared to the plans submitted for the permit?
Whenever I do it, I compare it to the plans, but I can't. It's pretty commonly done. Yes.
Okay. Well, did you actually review it for the purpose of this appeal?
No, I don't have the plans with me.
Um, but they were submitted to the city of Winnipeg, were they not?
I don't have any plans with me. I'm not sure, to be honest. I didn't put it on.
Okay. And when you um, do you know what classification the building has under National Building Code?
No, that sounds like something you might have in your brief. I don't have that in mind.
Well, I'm asking, was it what was it built as, an industrial building or a retail building? Do you know?
I don't have that on my brief to answer, sorry.
The usage you have on there, is this a retail usage? Is VCD?
It's a complete vehicle dealership, partially retails where you go into the showroom and buy cars, and partially service garage where they work on cars. It's a mixed use.
And do they sell cars here?
Cars, no. Vehicles, I believe.
Is there a showroom?
I'm not sure if it's a standard showroom or what the front entrance is, but again, I believe they sell vehicles out of this property.
Well, does it have the same amenities as other as car dealerships? Was in one the other day. There's like a kids coloring area. There's a area where they show their race team. The selection of your colors for your car, the seat, the upholstery you can pick. Coffee shop. Does it have any of those?
I believe the Peterbilt truck dealership is a little different than the car dealerships, yes.
Okay. And on the sizes, what percentage is dedicated to repair?
I don't have that broken down.
Is well, just looking at your overhead, is it fair to say that on page two, have you been in the site?
No, I just looked at the pictures
Okay.
from the inspections and the street view.
So you didn't break down the dimensions, and I'm looking at your picture on page two.
No, I did not break down the dimensions of the building.
Well, how do you deal with classifying a usage? In this case, are you aware that the predominant usage is repair?
It looks like a large portion of the building is for repair, but again, and for this type of, mixed use building that isn't super common, it's under our vehicle dealership classification.
Well, I'm going to go back to the building code. Are you aware that the building code specifies dominant usage as the determine how it's to be made?
Yeah, and when I understand what you're saying, when I look at the value of this property and look it over, and if we put it as our vehicle service garage, say it was all vehicle service garage, they didn't sell trucks, uh, how different the value be, it's not going to be that different from the history of me doing larger VSGs as well. You get similar rents, you get similar caps. It's for total value wise, I am not sure it's going to make a major value difference.
It won't be. Well, tell me then, why would you use retail rents to in your report? You've got a page of retail rents. Are you suggesting that those would be similar to industrial rents?
No, for our complete dealerships, again, we use the retail rents of the big box stores. And if this was, say, a full service garage, I would use VSG rents, which for the $9 rent in place, it wouldn't be too far off. But again, I followed what we had it under for the classification.
You didn't bring any of this information to the board then today?
No, I just have the VCD rent.
Um, Now, how much mezzanine space is in your assessed value?
The addition added 3,000 square feet approximately, and I'm not sure if that's the complete amount in there or how it was broken down, but at
Well,
least 3,000 square feet.
you've only got one. I'm looking at page 5. You've only got one value stream. You've taken the same rent for a mezzanine as you do for plan area.
Yeah, for this property, the all 76,000 square feet is a combination of mostly main floor and then the at least 3,000 square feet as space. And if you look on page 14, the upper floor space is built out pretty nice. They're using it as an office. It's, when I looked at that and saw $9.95 a square foot, it seemed reasonable to me.
How many mezzanines are in there?
I'm not certain.
Yes, and you haven't inspected it. You're not aware that there are three distinct mezzanine areas?
I imagine you could present that in your brief and I would look at that and agree with you.
Okay. And I hadn't seen this permit, but do you have the breakdown in this permit on the costs? There's a craneway in the back. Is that included in these costs?
We just have a declared construction value of $2,950,350. That's all I have for the breakdown.
Okay, and are craneways taxable, assessable?
I've never assessed a craneway. It's not added to this assessment.
And do any of your comparables, page 6, have cranes?
None of
Crane
them
what?
include cranes.
Now, as to the location of these, do you have any that are in the neighborhood?
None are on Brookside, no.
Any in an industrial area?
No, none of the big box stores are in majority industrial areas.
Any of these comparables have truck access?
That I'm unsure of.
Are they all on truck routes?
Probably not all, but again, which ones have loading bays that would allow trucks? I don't have that marked separately on this.
Any of them have the capacity to lift a truck up on a crane?
I don't believe any of them do truck repair, no.
Now, the rents here, they're all in the $18 range. There isn't a single one, is there, that is close to the applied rent? Is that correct?
No, again, none on Brookside in more of an industrial area that would, garner a lower rent than a big box store on a main route, in my opinion.
So, can any of these rents be used to support the $9.95?
Directly as the same type of building, no. It's again, because the way these type of buildings are, there are very few, if any, net rents for them. They're majority owner occupied. So I'm not one to try to say this $18 rent should be compared exactly to the Peterbilt building on Route 90. No.
On page 8, can you tell me which category the cap rate was drawn from?
Again, from my understanding, it is dealerships are mainly retail based cap rate. It's similar to a retail building is where we draw the base of the cap rate from. So that 6.55 would be a range within usually a power center, or between a regional cap rates for 20th and 80th percentile. So, they're between 6.1 and 7.2 for regional, and then 6.35 and 6.95 for the power centers.
Okay, so it's the modeler's opinion, I take it, that the rent for a power center, a big box store, and the cap rate is the same risk level as someone who services road transport vehicles.
It is it is my guess that is where the cap rate is being generated from.
So why not just use an apartment rate then? It's just as relevant, isn't it?
Yeah, I think for me seeing when I compare for what a standard vehicle dealership, retail is up there as well. I think it's, he can argue any of them. I think apartment's probably pretty far off. I don't think anybody's living there.
Well, you haven't inspected though. You don't know. I saw a guy sleeping there. Are you aware of discussions ongoing about segregating these truck dealerships from the VCD category?
You mean in the future, what you're talking about?
No,
I'm
it's
not
not
privy.
actually. There's about 300 outstanding appeals for the VCD category? And are you aware that there's discussion to start segregating the truck dealerships out of that grouping?
I'm aware that many of these are at the municipal board, and there is, maybe things will change in the future, but what exactly happened is, no clue right now.
Okay. Those are my questions, and I do have rebuttal.
Thank you. Mr. Mann, did you have any questions?
Just a couple, thank you, Madam Chair. Mr. Assessor, the addition of 17,000 square feet you indicate, or 17,710 square feet. Can you tell me when, or tell the board when that was inspected, please?
Yes, I had, it was, sorry, it'll just take me one moment. I had that in my notes.
Okay.
It was approximately, it was early 2023 it was inspected.
Okay, so that was upon completion that the
Yes.
inspection took place?
Yeah.
And that included plus or minus or just plus 3,000 square feet of mezzanine area?
Yeah, 17,710 square feet of main floor, and then 3,190 of that mezzanine.
Okay, so that's in addition to the 17,000 square feet. And you indicated as well, I believe that that, according to the pictures, and I don't know if that was the inspection notes as well, that was built out into office space. And
it's just from what I could see from page 14, the pictures I added from the inspection. But yeah, it looks like they are using it for, impromptu office space. And
okay. And my last question is with respect to the rent comparables on, I'm just looking for the page, the rent comparables, you have the VCD rent comparables along the lines of Mr. Neufeld's question. The average of that is $18.83, the average net rate. The rate that's been applied for the rent per square foot for this particular property is $9.95 a square foot, about 53% of the average rate. How is that 53% get calculated? Is that by model, or is that by alternative input, or can you give us
just
some
for the model rent of $9.95? Is that what you're asking?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's again, it is purely model driven based on that 76,170 square feet. So you'll notice that's very large for a vehicle dealership. Most vehicle dealerships are much smaller. So if you say that, I would say just from history of me doing these, you look at ones around a quarter of that size, they're closer to 15, let's say around $15, right? So when you get such a large dealership and its location, those adjustments are going to bring that rent down, and that's where that $9.95 is brought to, or is created from, I should say.
Thank you. I don't have anything further.
Thank you. And Mr. Whitbread.
Just going back to this notion of retail versus industrial. I know Mr. Neufeld asked a couple of questions about that, but I'm curious, can you put no proportion on what is retail office versus what is industrial? And I'll caveat that with, I'm looking at this new edition, these photos you've got, and it seems like a massive amount of space devoted to industrial and a relatively less space devoted to office, or, well, I don't see any retail, I see office. Have you no concept of the proportions, Jonathan?
In this building, I mean, I could do a overview measurement for the area, but again, we have it all. The way it was put in is all under 1 square foot at the $9.95 rental rate, and whether you want to split that up, industrial and then do a separate rental rate, and then have the retail portion be smaller and have a higher rental rate, it's just, there's definitely numerous ways to do it. This is the way we're presenting it today, and I don't have it split up a different way. So there's not really a good answer for you.
In the past, I've seen the dealerships presented as the dirty and clean end of the business, or the front and the back end of the business. And I'm not seeing that here, so yeah, it is a little bit different. Okay, no further questions.
Thank you. Mr. Spacek, I just have a couple of questions. Just to clarify, you did not yourself inspect this property, correct?
No, I did not go into this building.
Okay, and have you ever been in this building?
No, I've never been in this building.
Okay. And do you know what takes place in this building? Is it retail? Are trucks sold here? Or is it truck and repair, to the best of your knowledge?
To the best of my knowledge, it is. You can go buy a Peterbilt truck there and you can have those Peterbilt trucks work on there.
All right, I thank you. That is all my questions. Mr. Neufeld, if you would like to proceed.
Yeah, I just want to ask a question for point of clarification on one of the answers. I'm sure that we're talking about the same thing. In the presentation, as well as an answer, a question, the reference was made to page 6, comparables, and the inference was that they're VCD rents. Can you just confirm these are not VCD rents?
These are big box retail stores.
Yeah, what's their coding? RST or something?
Yeah, retail,
Okay.
larger retail warehouse. They're all larger sized retail buildings.
There's no VCD.
To clarify, no,
Yeah.
you won't find any net VCD rents in the city.
Okay. Okay, sorry about that. Yeah, okay, so I don't know what the procedure is. I was going to present and then provide my rebuttal. Page 1, so start off with there is an error in the measurement on this, and we've been trying to get the city to read the plans for years, and they don't seem to be interested, even though they're filed. Not talking about our assessor here, but in general. Now, when they did the addition, Precon did the plans, and I just wanted to show you. Those are on page 21. Now, I didn't provide the entire plan, but it is available. So in the red box, the existing, and I'm sorry it got covered up, but the existing footprint is 46,467 square feet. The addition 17,710 for a total footprint plan area 63,177 square feet. That was measured by a contractor. So over the years, the building has had, I believe, 3 alterations. Upon my inspection, I think that what happened here is that one of the body shop addition, which on the picture, I had this laid out a bit better here on page. I went to a lot of trouble here, page 3. The body shop addition, when it was built, I think cut into the footprint of the existing building. And so there was a double dipping on the measurement. That's what I believe happened here. So the dimensions are not correct. Now, the second issue with the building design, and I know this looks a bit messy, is there are 3 mezzanines in there, and page 1 lists them all. The first is an office mezzanine, 1,136 square feet. And on my page 3, that's in the red box, and it's an overseer's position that looks into the workshop area. The next mezzanine is not drawn on here because I hadn't seen it until after I drew the picture, but it's on the addition. So at the border of the truck repair space and the new addition, there is a mezzanine. It's a lunchroom and change area for the service technicians. And we're not disputing the size of that at 3,190 square feet. The third mezzanine, which is the source of perpetual mystery to me, is on page 3, and it's in the blue outline. And a picture of that mezzanine is on page 13, the bottom of 13 and the top of 13. It's open storage. Now, the space underneath it is secure parts storage area. So the expensive parts get locked up. This is essentially racking. This is not a mezzanine. There's nothing there for creature comfort, human comfort, whatever. It's another rack. And much like the page 14, these are the racks in the other parts of the this area. The difference being is the one labeled a mezzanine, it has a secure area below it, but it's all racking. And so as far as the dimensions go, what we're doing is not novel. It's a bit, you haven't seen this before, but this is an issue that I believe is the most principled viewpoint of space. First, the premise is, and I'll get into that later, this is an industrial building, pure and simple. And to say that it's any sort of retail is, I mean, it doesn't trade to retail. You or I, well, most of you, I suspect, would never go there to buy anything. It's for truckers. It's to service this industry. And I don't have any Peterbilts or Macs and on my street in my neighborhood. It's they're hauling cargo across the country. It's not retail in any nature whatsoever. But again, I'll show you where we get to that. But the point is, if you look at page 7 as an example, these are the truck bays in the full ceilinged area. And you can see that there's craneways, there's lifts, and you know the stacks on these trucks are, I believe, somewhere around 14 feet high. If you have a mezzanine, you can't drive a truck into it. You've lost your utility of the space below. So this misperception that if you add a mezzanine, you add value is completely false. What you do is you separate a floor, a high ceiling floor that has the utility to service trucks is cut in half. The underside of it becomes poor space. The top becomes poor space. You don't double your income or double your value when you put a mezzanine in. You chop it in half, and the two halves make the whole again. And what we're trying to bring forward to this point is that is the nature of industrial and this type of mezzanine. And it's true, there are mezzanines that do add value, but they would be, for example, in a retail location where you get an extra level of display to show your clients and sell your wares. Then it does create value because you have more display space. And that is your primary function, selling goods for a, I mean, the great mezzanine I always thought was a good point on this was something like the Chapters bookstores, because you can only reach so high for a book rack. You put a mezzanine up with an escalator going up to there, you do create value for increasing your display area. And it's all based on the usage. Squeezing a large truck in is what not being able to squeeze a large truck in, I should say, takes away the value. So what we've done is these numbers do add up to the plan area, and we've added the mezzanines in. But for example, page 1, the first two numbers, the old and then the under mezz space will equal the area of 46,467. And then we've added another 1136, but you see we've taken the main floor rent and chopped it in half. That's the way to do it. The new shop is 17,710, and we've taken the undermezz space and the new shop, that adds up to 17,710, put the rent on it, chopped it in half for the new mezzanine and the underside. This is to recognize that it's space, but it's lost its utility. You've ruined the underside of it. Now, just in a point of issue with this, I don't know if any of you ever heard the Boeing hearing. where we represented, they've got about 50,000 square feet of mezzanine, and it's just like this one. It's foreman space. They can overlook the plant floor and monitor. It is not rentable. It is part of their business, and where they have that space, they don't have the ability to run their move their goods underneath. It's part of the industry, and it doesn't add value, and that's the issue. So then the two rents we've used were $650 on the old and $8 on the new. And this being industrial space, you see all the pictures. It is, if you look at the question I asked the assessor earlier, of what percentage, page 3 is really pretty clear as to what space is industrial, the body shop, the parts storage, the truck repair, and the addition are all industrial uses. The office on the south side and the parts desk, and there's some parts out on display, very, very small area, another office row on the west side. And then, yes, there is a showroom. The showroom is not like your typical showroom. It's on page 16. That's it. It's a drive-through to show, have a truck on the inside. So the actual space dedicated to industrial is, I haven't done the numbers, but it's good. It's somewhere around 85%. It's predominant, and therefore the site's got to be categorized in that manner. This is not, this has been classified as a dealership in error. They make their money fixing trucks. It's obvious when you look at this, and not selling them. Matter of fact, one year, when things were rough, there were a couple of years in a row where they only sold one new truck a year. And that's the nature of two things. One was the market had died for it. And the second is most truck deals you don't walk into the showroom and say, I want that one. Can I get it in white? Most all deals are done corporately. A large fleet will contact the manufacturer directly, and then this location acts as the point of service for the issue. There are some local sales they'll generate on site, but most all go through the head office. Not a very good comparison to a car dealership. The other issue on this is the land, and that goes on beginning page 19. And the sketch of the land, this originally was a site of, I believe it was 21 acres, and it was part of the Innsbruck industrial area. And this is not hearsay. I was involved in all of these. This is the first job I ever did in real estate in the late 90s. Klaus Rossler, who was on the site where the Peterbilt was, it was a plumber. He started the Innsbruck industrial development, and he had 3 sections of land that he had access to, and we went through the subdivision process and the approval process. Servicing initially was temporary from across Inkster, and then later on the main lines were brought in on Commercial Avenue from King Edward, a mile away. Mr. Rossler went bankrupt, and the servicing, which still hasn't all been paid for, but was taken over by Sonex, and then it shifted to Bentall when they purchased the Sonex portfolio. This particular piece of land was owned by actually a person named Lawrence Usician. Mr. Ed Danilchuk bought 4 lots here, and that's the Peterbilt lot and the 3 lots to the west. And the idea was to eventually sell them. He was successful at selling the lot on the northeast corner to a bakery, and the one on the southeast corner to Watrous Power Systems. The one he could not sell was the one in gray. And the reason why has to do with the city of Winnipeg twinning Inkster. At the time he purchased the site, we don't have a good picture of it, but on page 20, there were two access points to this site. One was on Inkster, which is actually not on the subject property land, and the other is on Brookside, which comes off at this point it's a mixed, it's a provincial highway within, half is in the city, half is in Armor Rosser. But when the twinning occurred, a median was built to separate the east flow from the west flow, and all traffic wishing to turn into Inksbrook were directed down to Inksbrook, which is on page 19 is the street that's angled on the right side of the picture. And so there was no more access. So, and for trucks, this is a major deal. You cannot get a transport truck that's westbound into the site without a lot of maneuvering. Essentially, what you have to do is, if you are westbound, is you have to go down Brookside and then cut across the other way, or you go to Inksbrook and you do a U-turn and come around the other way. And then to get out, of course, it's the same issue. Eastbound traffic have an in-out, but the access is on the adjoining lot. Now, because Mr. Danilchuk owned both, it was not an issue. And in the time, from the time that this was done, he's never, his son's running it, never been able to sell it, and they've ended up using it. And I think that the most recent pictures, we have some street shots. They've taken it over because as they've expanded the footprint of the plant, they have turned that area into a storage area, fenced storage area for their product. And that's a picture on page. I know I took these pictures. We went out the other day. Page 5, the bottom, is the compound that's actually on the lot next door that they've moved over to there. So what we're dealing with here are two parcels of land, both with separate roll numbers, and we've ended up deducting that at the bottom. So going back to the rents, this is industrial in flavor, and the location has to be taken into account. On page 22 are the rents that we looked at. Now, these are a lot of rents. This is our size table as well. But the ones that we think are pertinent are number 22, which is 1245 border, and this is where Route 90 cuts across and border starts. And this was recently redone, and the rent achieved was $525. And that particular site, it had a loading dock and a rail spur, and that was removed, and the site was redone. Right now in there are William F. White. They are not this tenant. This is the tenant before. William F. White just moved in, and if they supply movie producers with lighting equipment, and that's what's being used there. And that's 49,000 square feet. The other three that are very, very pertinent are number 31, 32, and 39. And you can see they're all within the same size area. 200 Discovery is Staples Distribution Center, and it is a block away from the subject. It's built with tilt-up, and it's a cross-dock facility. So it was designed and built for that particular usage. The rent is a bit higher, but it's a better quality site with a tilt-up. 1450 Mountain is at 625, and this was the former furniture, Pallister Furniture. This land was subdivided, and this particular lease is to Big Freight, who are a trucking company. and they're at 625. And the last one, number 39, is 11 Plymouth. The lease started in October 21, 650 a square foot. It's Amazon's distribution center. It is now closed. That was a business decision, but although it was a building that I think was a 1980s vintage, there was a great deal of money spent to renovate the site for Amazon's usage with the distribution, as well as the land also includes a purchase of an adjoining parking lot. So there's a lot, it's two parcels in there. So these comps are shown beginning on page 23. First is the 1245 border. Some of these other ones I think are pertinent. They're in different parts of town, but I won't spend any time on those. I was just keen on the main ones. Sorry, I missed 100 Omens. It's a recycle facility in Tiltup, and 1370 Sony. The only interest there is that it was a big distribution center, so it can handle semis. I'm paging down here, page 25. First is 200 Discovery, and it's the Staples distribution warehouse. Now, this was part of a national deal, so less weight on this because Staples is an international company, and in this case, the developer also is as well. So they had warehouses set up across Canada under the same set of agreements. Not a real good local deal. Next is 1450 Mountain, and we have here's an error here because we use the big freight rent, but the picture at the bottom of page 25 is the Canada Goose space. We were also a tenant in the building, so but I think you can get a semi in there. But the other tenant in this building was the City of Winnipeg Archives when they had the flood on William, and you can see that they have all the loading bays very similar to the subject and the archive storage. They're still in there in holdover, and that page 27 top of 27 is also that building. And then comes 11 Plymouth. There's the rent roll. The picture at the bottom of 27 shows the building being renovated in the background, and the foreground is the new parking lot addition that was put in there for the rent. Page 28 shows after construction, and the aerial at the bottom shows the second lot being added to it and what it ended up being. As again, it has not, Amazon's decision was purely business related. Things were happening for them across the country. There were a couple of other rents that we're aware of, and we're going to point out on page 29. The rent on the top is the former site of Peterbilt, which is now East Side Truck Repair. Similar utility, 654 a square foot. And that's the picture of it below. And Peterbilt was in the site, and the problem with it was the land there, I believe, was only 5 acres, and they needed much more land than that. They moved across the street. Still owned by the same owner as Peterbilt, our subject property. A couple other in here. I noticed 1370 Dougal is on the docket for today. This is no longer in place because I know there was a transfer in ownership, and that was negotiated between two family members at $950 for a trailer retail place. The next one is number 5, 1777 Ellis, which is sells car parts. It's the Napa large warehouse, but it is open to the public. It's more retail. That's why the rent's higher. And the rest of these are not. There's some body shops below. These are the Boyd portfolio, car body shops, of course, not truck body shops, and the rents there range from $731 to $905. The last one being the highest because it was a conversion from a hatchery on Scurfield to a body shop. I actually appraised it for this transaction, so I'm familiar with the operation. The capital and commitment there was much higher. And there are pictures of them below. Oh, right, there was another one, 231 Oak Point. This is an unusual site. This was designed as a motorcycle dealership and is now a used car dealership. So that's a valid rent at $9 for selling used cars. However, this rent only covers the showroom portion and a small shop. The actual there's another 14,000 square feet of truck bays on it that we're renting. They were actually, the last use for them was the private car collection of the former owner. But prior to that, they were renting at $3 and $4. And so it's a segment of the site only. Page 31 is the BOMA discussion of mezzanines and how they're to be measured. What is important in this is that the bottom line on any of these BOMA issues is that it's not a binding. It's a way of trying to get some consistency in measurement style. But the issue I wanted to bring in here is on page 33. When the occupancy of the building is 51% or more dominated by non-office users, that the industrial standard should be utilized. And that's one standard. Then I have building zoning. As far as the cap rate goes, our report is on page 51, and I think we've got it in its entirety. And page 53 is the most important issue. Essentially, during COVID, there were no sales to speak of. And what happened is that the industry, to determine cap rates, moved more to, in the past, what we called mortgage equity, but what they're calling is the spread. And you take the interest rate and you add 3-4 points to the spread, and that's what the expectation of cap rates are. The concept of direct capitalization did not exist. It was in suspension for quite some time. There are no sales to speak of. And our people, when they were doing that, were focused heavily on that. And our report on page 54, again, this would be classified as industrial. As far as the classes go of industrial, the glossary follows, and there are Class A and Class B, and when normally what these are applied to are flux warehouse, like the Terracon projects, not dirty working buildings. They don't do dirty working buildings, and our subject is a dirty working building. So you won't see a lot of caps in there. What we do is we use it as a base point and look on going back to page 2 and look at what the optimal would be, and then look at the problems with it. And you can see we've highlighted the problems from an investment there up front. The access is not good, especially for someone who sells big trucks. Configuration, it's designed and built to fix trucks. Conversion would be difficult because what you have is a long, narrow building with multiple openings, whereas the most common usage being distribution will have a greater depth and fewer openings and a specified loading area. So there's capital involved to change it. And design and layout with the truck bays were basically it. So we're estimating at 7.25. The history of appeal on this thing is crazy. This goes back to 2016, and it's the same issue that you're listening to today. Is this a truck dealership, an industrial use, or a retail use? And quite clearly, it's industrial. It's in an industrial part of town. It's a repair shop for truck vehicles. The public is not. The public can go in there and look at the parts, but they're not welcome. It's an industry service. It's like going to someone who manufactures piping, underground piping, for the city to buy. Domestic users don't show up there and browse, and that's the problem with the assessment. It's focused on that retail concept, which does not exist. I think I've got most of it covered here. The only thing is, there was a couple of pictures. I talked about it being a dirty site. Of course it is, page 6. This is the underspace under the new mezzanine. And you can see there's a 3-ton jib crane. And what they do here is they have motors that came out of the trucks that are stored on site. This is, I don't know how many of you remember the old time shops where you used to go in and you could smell the oil and smell the grease and look at the parts all over the place. That's what this thing brings back the memories of. Page 8, engine blocks lying around, parts lying on the floor. I love it. Page 9, open pits. Last time I looked at an auto dealership, their shop was so clean you could eat in there. But this is trucking. This is different. It's good work. It's working area, and also you can see the craneways that run the length of the entire service area from back to front. So it's a dual craneway. Looking for the best picture of it. They're the yellow overhead craneways. The capacity is, I want to say 5 or 10 tons. I'm just trying to read the stamp here. It's not like big 20-ton capacity because the most they're taking out are motors. And page 11 is this is the entranceway to the mezzanine, the best one, the office one, 1,136 square feet. This is what you got. It's not separately demisable, obviously, when you look at this, and it's not going to be rented to somebody else saying, I need some mezzanine space. It's merely accessory space to the main, and that's the way we've treated it. That I think I've given you the entire tour, and I thank you for your patience. That's it.
Thank you, Mr. Neufeld. Mr. Spellcheck, did you have any questions?
I have no questions. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you. Mr. Whitbread, any questions?
A couple. I'm looking at page 15 and 16, Mr. Neufeld, and I know you referenced the showroom as the truck in the, I guess, in the showroom. But isn't there truly a place where a trucker can go in and buy steering wheels and antifreeze and oils, fluids? That looks like, based on those 2 photos you've got, a fairly big space.
Bottom of page 15 and top of page 16 are those areas, and each is from one side of it. So if you reference back to my sketch on page 3, it's where I've marked the parts desk, and and the line is not precise, but at some point the line from the parts desk to the parts becomes an area where you move into the storage area on page 13 to 14. And it's behind the wall. I'm not sure. I have the plans. somewhere, and I haven't the old plans, and I can't locate them. If I were to guess, well, now I mean, I can do a bit better than guess. I can give you a rough estimate of what that area is. Are you looking for a steering wheel for your truck?
If I was, that's where I would go.
Yeah. Sorry. I'm not trying to be flippant here. I was just.
Well, if I can just elaborate a bit, I'm referencing back to one of your comments about the public is generally not welcome here. To me, the public looks like they're welcome here. If I wanted to go in and buy antifreeze for my truck, I could go in and buy antifreeze. Or
Well, yeah, but if you have a road transport truck, yes, but I don't classify that as the public. I mean, I think it's a fixed group. And they're industrial users, they're truckers. You know, if you took a survey of your residential neighborhood and say how many of you shop at Peterbilt, you'd get zero. Well, no, actually, I got a neighbor who had a trucking company. Take that back. Rough estimate is about 3,600 square feet of retail space. We'll call it.
So about 5% of the total
right.
that
Yeah.
the assessor has indicated. And then from that, can you guesstimate what the office space would be?
Yeah, the office is all the perimeter around it, and it's for a variety of you know, different. There's leasing people in there. There's operations, the people involved with the repair side. You know, mixed use. So the west side is about 1,500 feet. And the south side is about 2,300 feet, so maybe 4,000 feet in total.
In addition to the other 3,000 feet.
Correct.
Now, when we look at that showroom that you mentioned, does only one truck fit in that showroom, or
yes,
more trucks?
Yeah, no, that's it. It's on the I think there's put a line over it so you can't see it too clearly, but if you look at the overhead shots, the angle portion of the building that fits one truck, and it's that one is quite a lot easier to measure. It's I'm going to call it about 1,400 square feet.
Okay, so just over 10,000 square feet, perhaps.
Yeah.
Retail, as opposed to the back end.
Right, that's where I came up with and I was just guessing, but it seems pretty close to it, but a little over 80% is repair.
Okay, thank you. No further questions.
Thank you. And Mr. Mann?
I have some questions with respect to the secondary, I guess, with respect to the calculation of the cap rate, but just to summarize your position, Mr. Neufeld, and correct me if I'm wrong, please. Your contention is that this should be classified more along the lines of an industrial or as opposed to retail or mixed use. Is that a?
Yeah, I think right, and the conclusion was you know, the predominant usage by far is an industrial style, and I'm going to call it a dirty industrial style. You know, every industrial plant's got a degree of office space in it.
Right.
That doesn't turn them into office.
Sure. And you also indicated that the cap rate report that you've submitted in the cap rate that gave you the optimal number here of 6% was not based, or Colliers did not use dirty buildings. Right?
No, because in our new commercial real estate world, those type of buildings are We segregate these. So in our office, we'll have an industrial group who do the working buildings. And then the ones that are investment quality go into the investment group. And they would be, and I don't want to pick on Terracon because I like the guys there, but that's what they're classifying in our report, a Terracon building or the conversion of the Labatt's Brewery site that Sonex did a few years ago. Those are good examples of what we classify as investment grade industrial buildings. The rest is user to user, so cap rates don't happen.
Right. So as this is almost a user to user, this is a user owner occupied, built to purpose. Is that fair to say?
Yeah, exactly. It was for targeted specific use.
Sure. And then I'm just looking at the alterations or well, the alterations, for want of a better word, that you've made with respect to optimal properties and subject property. And I see that you've deducted 5 points for location. And your words were, this is a terrible location for truck sales, but you're not classifying this for truck sales.
Where that comes into location I'm looking at it was two basis points on the cap, which work out to about 0.2 of a point, is for alternate use. It's great for the use it's in, but how big is that market for truck sales? There are 4 or 5 users in the market. So as a location for an alternate use, it suffers. For what we're talking about here is in our profession we call use value. It's got use value, but that's not market value. So I stand by that. The location, it's an alternate use contemplation.
And the design layout, is that an alternate design layout? Because you've deducted 3 basis points there for the garage and showroom layout mezzanine. But again, that was purpose built.
Yeah, and purpose built means again the concept of an investment sale is you're going to get someone come in to buy it and look to rent it out to somebody else. And if you've got a purpose built building, what are the costs involved with putting it to market? And what you can see with this purpose built building, the style of the bays, unless you have a similar user, which is limited, you're going to have capital to spend. So when an investor buys it, he doesn't necessarily know who his tenant's going to be. And if you look in the neighborhood, some of the cross-dock facilities, and I'm just looking at an aerial right now, so my life is easy, but I'm looking at the one rent comp we used for the Staples warehouse. What do you have to spend on this building to make it look like that and then be able to market it? That was what we were thinking. And the idea of it is what people are wanting to see is the concept of if it's going to be truck bays and distribution, you're going to have rows of bays. What's being built now in Rosser is you'll have a double row of buildings. The interior will be a truck maneuvering area. We double up on that wasted space, and the fronts of the buildings will be small vehicle maneuvering area. And you get utility, and then every bay is usually a 3,000-foot bay. It's going to be a 30 by 100 bay where the posts go, and then you sell or rent in multiples of 3,000 feet. And your ceiling height is going to be usually at least 27 clear, 32 physically. And so when I'm saying about the custom usage on it is none of that really describes the subject right now. You would have to spend money on it to make it happen. And that's where the investor says I'm paying less for it, so my cap's going to be higher.
Thank you. I have nothing further. Thank you.
So Mr. Neufeld, you've been in this building, I'm assuming?
Yes, numerous times, all through its life.
Okay, and so you've inspected this building since the addition, correct?
Yes.
Okay, so you had stated, I believe that you felt this wasn't an ideal location for this type of business.
No, it's a good location for this specific business. And there are, I'm just trying to remember the truck dealerships. There's Maxim, there's Beaver, Peterbilt. I keep forgetting the other, there's another one for sure. The main group of people who sell road tractors, transport vehicles, and service them for the service business. Maxim is kitty corner, so I certainly can't deny that it's good for them. But the point is that there's only 4 or 5 of them. If you were looking at it for a site for a distribution center, you're going to be focused on different issues in regard to it. And you look at the new configuration in Rosser where they've got on-ramp, off-ramp. The truck doesn't have to slow down as much or go through street lights. When Innsbruck was started, the last use on that land was a mink farm, and that's how long it's been sitting. And the farmland's been in this particular family in the area for over 100 years. So when they came in and started doing the industrial usage, the encroachment of residential wasn't there. Now it has encroached, and it's just less desirable because as residents come in, then you have to introduce traffic systems to handle the load of residents and street lights and access points. And unlike Centerport, which doesn't have any of that feature whatsoever. So the best location now would be Centerport. You have the on-off of Canada Way, and you don't have, you've got direct access, hopefully without a street light, for 1,000 miles in every direction, except for that one in Morris. And that's where road transport is going. So today, if you rebuilt it, you'd be in Centerport Way. It's still a good location though for that use.
Yes, because they did add a 17,000 square foot addition onto it.
Well, it's the cost of relocating or alteration. I like my neighborhood. I put an expansion in my house instead of moving. That's their call.
Yep. Is this the only Peterbilt location?
Yeah, there's one in Brandon, Calgary.
Sorry, I mean in Winnipeg.
Oh yeah. No, that's just the
right.
only one.
Okay, I thank you. That's all my questions.
Madam Chair, may I just follow up with one more?
Yes, go ahead.
Rocky, I'm looking at your page 1 workup, and you've subtracted what you call 2533, which I assume is 2533 Inkster, based on your other commentary.
Right.
You subtracted about $638,000. Is there a square footage you assigned to that, or how did you?
Oh, that was just no. That's the assessed value.
That's the assessed value.
Yeah. And it's generally, and it's shown on page 19.
Let me get there. It's coming.
Most years the assessors would gladly take this off, but it's a fight every cycle.
So I don't see. Oh, there it is. The one in the red box.
Yes.
Okay. Thank you. No further questions.
Thank you. Mr. Spacek, I think we're going to go on and read it, the next portion for Brookside, and Mr. Neufeld, you've got rebuttal, I understand.
Yes, it was sent yesterday, so hopefully you should have it.
I believe we do. So we'll just have your rebuttal at the end. Are you? You're fine with that, I'm assuming?
Yeah, whenever you wanna have me address it.
And I'm just going to ask panel members, are you all right to proceed, or would you like to take a break at this time?
This is just supplementary,
Yes,
so I would proceed.
all right,
I'm good to go. Thanks.
okay, thank you. Mr. Spacek, if you'd like to proceed.
No problem. Thank you, Madam Chair. We're looking now at file number 23-366, roll number 14100128045. Again, 1895 Brookside Boulevard with the 2024 value of 10,860,000. I would just ask all our prior discussion carry forward to this one, as it is the same.
I'm in agreement.
Thank you both. Mr. Whitbread, did you have any questions in regards to that?
No,
And Mr. Mann,
No, I don't have any questions. Thank you.
right? And Mr. Neufeld, we're going to proceed to your rebuttal.
I don't know if you've all got the document. I had Ayrton do this up, and I guess he wanted to put a picture of a truck on the front page. I don't think that's rebuttal. That's just a truck. There's a nice picture of the showroom on page bottom of page 1. That's not rebuttal, but it answered a question earlier. There's space for one truck. The page 2 is from the plans. Sorry, I'm making a cup of coffee. It's a bit noisy. It'll be finished in a minute. Now, I think that the previous this is the same one that we showed you earlier that showed the building footprint, and you'll notice 2 things on there. First, the red circled area saying that this is National Building Code Group F Division 2. That's industrial. Now, retail is Group E. They're made differently. This is the plan submitted to the city, industrial. And it includes all industrial buildings. The footprint information is unobscured, unlike the other one. You can see it again. And I said to you earlier that I think that there was a mistake that the assessor may have double dipped. You'll note that to read a bit further down, 0.3.1.17.1 occupant load, it doesn't match the footprint. And I believe that was part of the when you expand, what has it connects to the previous site. There may have been some demolition of the previous site, and they changed the load factor onto an additional 100 feet, not creating more area. The footprint counts, but the key here is building code F, and then the classifications on page 2 and description of what these are. This is a F2 medium hazard industrial occupancy, not even a low hazard. It's a medium hazard, and the E is, as I said earlier, mercantile occupancies. This relates to the utility of the building and how it's built. The next page are comparables, and these are the assessor's comparables, and I don't know how legible these are. All of them are numbered out. These are numbers, and you can see that the top left corner is the subject, and his comparables are from shopping areas. The glut of them in Polo Park and near IKEA, and also in Garden City Shopping Center. This is what was applied. I think the map says it all when I first looked at this, and not rebuttal, obviously, except tooting my own horn here. Here's our comps in the blue. We're all surrounding the subject, all in the same neighborhood. And this is what you should be using for this, because as we all know, location is the key. The page 6 is oh, I knew I had a better sketch of the lot next door at 2533 Inkster. This one shows the fenced compound in it. I'm not sure if that's rebuttal, so I won't. Maybe it is. There's the blown up image of it on page 7. That it's a part of the complex, what it does. Whatever way you value it, it does. They service, repair trucks, and this is part of the economic unit. There's a picture of it under construction, and obviously this is industrial. Page 8 are the permits that date back to 2012 with the first expansions, and I'm reading from the bottom up: interior alteration, repair, service building. That's the lowest one. Outside storage shed added. Cold storage added. I'm moving up here. A third of the way up: interior alterations to an existing washrooms and a commercial storage building. This is submitted to the city, and this is the permit I was written up. None of these talk about retail. Everything that was submitted to them was based on industrial, and the last one, construction addition to an existing commercial building. That was, but they all refer to the use that it was. There's nothing about retail in here. There's nothing about having comforts for humans. It's about the building. And these are pictures of the assessor's comparables. And page 9, the top is one of his 1301 Keniston. This is what I was referring to earlier as this is a Terracon project. So these are built with a 3,000-foot bay, rented to people, just the floor area, and then the people finish it out themselves. But they use the same architect's plan. All of these are high enough for a full 2-story. And however the tenant finishes it out is his business. This is at the corner of McGilvery and Keniston. The last truck user in there was Reimer Express, who moved out in 1999 when all the shopping centers were built. And that really nails it what the issue is here. When the shopping centers show up, industrial users, truckers gotta leave. And then here's the rest of his comps: Brick, Ashley Home Store, Michael's, Lazy Boy. I praise that Lazy Boy. Huh, small world. Giant Tiger, and the Sterling Lion shops. We couldn't figure out which was which. Ness. 1485 Portage is Polo Park. And Empress. So this is what we're comparing. And again, no semis anywhere here. So that's yeah, that was it.
Thank you. Mr. Spacek, any questions?
I have no questions. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Whitbread
No, I have none, thank you.
and Mr. Mann.
No, thank you, Madam Chair. No questions.
Thank you. I also have no questions. Mr. Neufeld, thank you for appearing this morning.
Okay. I guess normally I like to repeat everything in rebuttal. I mean, in summation, I don't know. Do I need to? Can I leave you with just the key takeaways as summation in 30
Course.
seconds?
Sure.
Key takeaways are this is industrial, not anything to do with selling new cars. It's been coded wrong for years. It doesn't matter how the assessor wants to code it. You got to look at the market, what's going to happen with it in the market. When this thing goes away, if retail or residential ever encroaches it, it'll be demolished. It'll be sold for the land. And that's the point I'm trying to make here is that this isn't anything to do with a vehicle selling new cars. The building code segregates it. That's national building codes. That's our federal government says it's a different building. And that weight's got to be put on that. Dimensions are wrong. We've given you the plans. I think our comps are pertinent. I personally think that the Amazon is the best comp you'll ever see because it's the closest possible to this site, and it's only half a mile away from the site. Those are my key takeaways. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Mr. Spacek, do you have a wish for a summation?
No, that's fine. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. And at this time, we will take a short recess. I would like to call this hearing back to order. And if you could affirm, Mr. Navarro.
I sure can. And Mr. Navarro, please state your full name.
Marcelo Navarro.
You affirm that the evidence you're about to give at this hearing is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth.
I do.
Thank you.
Thank you. Good morning, Mr. Navarro. Thank you for your patience and waiting. And Mr. Spacek, if you would like to start us on 1377 Niagara Road East.
Not a problem. We're looking at file number 23-260. This is roll number 0609307570. This address is 1377 Niagara Road East. And if you just look at page 2, you can get an idea of where it is. But this is just at the corner of Lage and Fermor, Lage and Modier and Fermor. Again, on the east edge of the city, there's again, a bunch of similar type buildings around there. This is a 2024 appeal. So we have a total assessed value of $3,483,000. This building has been a Harley Davidson dealership since its creation. It was built in 2005. It has a gross and leasable area of 21,143 square feet. If you look on page 2 at the bottom, you can see a street view of the building itself. It's a full Harley Davidson dealership. You can go by there. They have a little showroom. They also do repairs and have office space for what their needs. It's the only dealership of their kind in the city. Page 3 as well has an updated aerial photograph of the property. Take a peek at that. Page 4, we have they've always complied with our request for information. The property was originally bought as land in 2005 as 156, and then there was a sale in 2020. I believe the dealership changed hands, so there was a sale for $3,500,000. Our income workup for this property is on page 5. Again, we have a vehicle dealership. We have this one separated into 2, so it has 15,120 square feet of standard finished space at $13.62 a square foot, and then we have storage space at mezzanine space at 6,023 square feet at $9.44. If you want to look at it as an overall blended rate, like our last property, it would come in at $12.43 a square feet. It was blended at 21,143 square feet. So that's $12.43 blended. Again, very similar parameters for the remaining. These are all of our model parameters for VCDs. So we have a vacancy loss of 2%, expenses of 3%, and a shortfall of $6 per square foot. We have an overall capitalization rate for this property at 7.1%. If we turn to page 6, again, not trying to say they're the best. We have for our dealerships, as there are no net rents for dealerships, we have our same for all of our dealerships, our big box comparables. These are located on page 6 and have a total weighted average of $18.01. If we scroll down to page 10, we've included the 2020 income and expense mailer. You can see as fully owner occupied, and then they are putting a gross rent in there. So, I'm making the assumption that it's some sort of book rent. They have put 22,000 square feet as leasable. You turn to page 12, we have a COVID questionnaire. They put minor impact. They put, were tenants at this location closed temporarily due to public health concerns? Yes. And then in 2020, question 4, has the property experienced an increase in operating expenses? They put yes, and then describe the expenses. They put unsure. Then the only other ones that have changed there's no other ones filled out. If you include page 14, we also included the sales questionnaire for the property in on March 4th, 2020. So the current owner bought the property, filled this out as a $3.5 million sale. Basic company searches, I could not find a relation between the two, but that was just running basic company search between the vendor and the buyer. We have sales verification. So we send this out for all sales that are done in Winnipeg for all commercial sales. So this is alternative. It just says question 1, is the sale price shown, the actual price paid? Yes. What date was the sale price agreed upon? February 25th, 2020. Was this sales an arm's length open market transaction? They put yes. Question 4, were any items other than real estate included in the purchase price? They put no. And the options that, if there were, you can fill out, you can put machinery or equipment, business accounts, furniture, or other. Question 5, was there an appraisal done? No. Question 6, was there a lease back arrangement? No. And then question 7, is the sale full interest? Yes. Question 8, is there a single lease covering any or all of the building? Yes. Is there a land lease involved? No. Question 10, did the purchaser occupy all parts of the property prior to purchase? Yes. So this is showing that again, I couldn't find a relationship between the purchaser and the seller, but then they fill this out. Did the purchaser occupy all or part of the property prior to purchase? So is there a relationship there? That's it's a question that came up when I reviewed this one. And then and then it says question 11, does the purchaser intend to occupy all or part of the property after the sale? Yes. And question 12, does the purchaser intend to use the property for a new business? No. So again, nothing else. Really just says it was average. It was used at the time of the sale as office, but it's always, from even I went back to the old picture, it's always been Harley Davidson since it's been built. Is this intended use of the property the same? Yes. Overall condition average. Are you going to make major repairs? No. Do you intend to demolish any of the structure? No. And did you intend to subdivide? No. So again, that's the questionnaire that was sent in when we sent that out at the sale in 2020. And then that owner is currently in the building for the 2024 assessment. And if you have any questions on this one, that's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Navarro, did you have any questions to the assessor?
I do have a few questions. The first question it relates to your page 14, and it is question 5, where they note the purchaser or I'm not sure who filled this out, notes that there was no appraisal done at that time. And would you say that that is a common thing to not see an appraisal value there, or where a potential purchaser actually does not do an appraisal to determine the value of the property?
I know for most sales, from my understanding, appraisals are required, especially when there's like a mortgage involved, but we have ones that show it and we have ones that don't. This one, there's none included.
Okay. And the next question is that there was a clear relationship between both parties, correct? And that's answered on question 10, correct?
Yeah, well, question 10 is, did the purchaser occupy all parts of the property prior to purchase? Yes. And then again,
Yeah.
I'm assuming I did, like, again, the company searches were done on the sale, so it looked like there wasn't, but again, when that
Okay.
happens there, it seems to be there was a relationship. So again, I couldn't find a concrete answer on that one.
Okay. So my next questions pertain to the actual location of the property. And you can see in your overhead, can't see it as well, but this is kind of an industrial area, correct?
Yes.
Okay. And it's really not situated right on a main thoroughfare. It's off of a main thoroughfare, correct?
Yeah, you turn off of Fermor, just at the corner of Lodge and Fermor, and then you drive down Niagara. Road East and is a bunch of mixed use style of buildings.
Okay, great. In terms of the comparable properties that you've um, listed here, I think there's, for the most part, these are the same comparables throughout these appeals, correct? So
Yeah, all the same.
yeah, maybe what we'll do is we'll just hash this out right now rather than going over them, each time. So the first question is these set of comparables, these 28 comparables, was this a list that you compiled?
It's maybe not this exact one, but I've used a very similar one numerous times. I've adjusted it slightly myself, but it's just, again, a wide range in net rents of retail warehouse around the city. That's usually close to the dealerships that we have on the main routes, but for one like this where it's a Harley Davidson dealership off of a main road, it's not as applicable.
Okay. Now, in terms of the comparisons on that list, would you agree that most of them are either one of community, regional, or power centers?
Yes, absolutely.
Okay. Now, the next question focuses on the model, and I know that you're not a modeler. I've heard that from just about every assessor, but in terms of the model, you have to have a starting point, which is a rent, and then the model adjusts it based on certain criteria, location, size, age, all of those things. Now, is that rent that starts off the starting point a retail rent, or is it an industrial rent, or is it a blend? Can you answer that?
I mean, I've never done the modeling. Again, all I know under this heading of vehicle dealership, we have a C2 standard. So that's the standard rent for all of these. What that initially is based on, I can't confirm. I just can't confirm exactly how it's done, but it is that rent is originally taken from, as everyone knows here, the mailers that are sent in, wide range of net rents used for each cycle, and it is based off those net rents that are sent in.
Okay. So based on the fact that your comparables are predominantly one of the community, regional, or power centers, if that is where the model is taking its starting point from, would you not agree that maybe that starting point would be a little bit higher than it should be for a property of this type?
Yeah, and it could be. I'm not. Again,
Okay.
I'm not certain it's taken from these exact retail warehouse comparables, but there is a way more retail rent sent in than just the retail warehouses, and I doubt our VCD is based just off of these. I know we've compiled this list because there is, as you know, not any net rents for the dealership. So instead of bringing nothing and saying, hey, I'm bringing some retail warehouses that are, in my mind, somewhat similar, especially the dealerships that are closer to that, but in this case, not as comparable.
Okay. Now, and on top of that, would you agree that most of these comparisons may have some warehousing that definitely have a retail component, but for the most part, they're not going to have those more what we would call maybe an industrial use, and that being the repair side of it and the maintenance side, or the repair maintenance and any type of collision repair. That those components would not be included in any of these.
Not in these ones, no, not in the retail warehouses.
Okay. And for the most part, I believe I know the answer to this, but this was all model driven. You did not deviate from that, correct?
Yeah, this is just model driven for the 2023 assessment, and then that carries over for 24 and 25.
Okay, great. Thank you.
And Mr. Whitbread, questions?
Yes. In your workup, you let us know that there are two buildings. And when I reference your photographs, I'm going to find the best one. Page 3. One building would be the gray building, the main building, I assume. Two building would be the white quonset, they call them, or hut at the back.
I believe it's just the way this was put on. I believe it's all just the main building. I don't believe any of those huts are being valued, from my understanding, but you got me questioning it. But
Now, what
yeah,
about-
I was assuming it was just the main building all as one. But just depending how we put it in the system.
Hmm.
But unless I might be wrong, again that question skipped my mind when doing this one and reviewing it.
Well, is that structure at the back, is that also a building? Do you know?
it looks like they have two of those similar white Kwanzaa huts, but are those being valued? I haven't had an experience with those being valued, so I would just have to do a top view quick.
Okay, and then the third, it looks like a building at the top of the photograph. Is that a building? Do you know?
It looks like it's outside, like those two. They look like two almost containers. Are you talking about the white containers?
I guess I can't
Like
tell.
past that way, like on page 3 at the top of the top right of the picture.
Yep.
Yeah, those don't even look like. It looks like the fence is even. Oh, yeah, I see what you mean. Yeah, I believe those are they look like two of those almost like train style storage bins.
Okay.
Or like the back of it, they carry them on the semis. But they just look like storage bins to me. We usually don't include those. They're not attached and down.
So when we typically do a dealership, we see a very large amount of space allocated to storage of new and used vehicles on the lot, correct?
Yeah, there's usually a larger
Right.
land to plan ratio.
Motorcycles, not so big. In fact,
Yep.
I don't see one motorcycle in sight, and I'm wondering if that might be a security issue and they store them away in those quonsies or whatever.
Mhm.
I
Yeah.
can't assume, but I see no motorcycles, maybe a few on the bottom of the building. Yet your ratio for land to complete space is 5.76. So you've got that huge triangle of land at the top end of the photo, yet I see no additional land value attached to your workup. Can you explain that?
Yeah, sorry, I'm gonna go back onto that question. I just had a note at the bottom of my thing from an old note. I just wanted to clarify that the 21,000, like the larger square footage. Let me just load up my page for you quick. Sorry. So we have it as split up as 15. We used to have it all as 21,143, but it's been split up in the past. 15,120 square foot as main floor, and then 6,023 is the second floor mezzanine space in the building. So there's no outdoor storage included in that. And then for your current question, for this land to plan ratio, I'm just loading up my proper page here. So for our land to plan 5.78, again, a lot of dealerships go up to 8-1, around there is what quote unquote has been said as an ideal amount of land. We've never added for that small of a space. It would have to be a much larger excess space that they could build something or use it for something else, if that makes sense. So there's been no added value for land on this one.
Yeah, obviously, and that's acceptable.
Yeah.
That's acceptable, given it's a dealership. But
yeah, this isn't, and also just the style of building like that. You're not gonna, even in the top left corner where they have a little bit of extra land, the top of the property, or if they were to subdivide and sell, but it would be so tight for us to assume there's that surplus land.
Thank you. No further questions.
Thank you. And Mr. Mann?
Yes, I do. With respect to the comps that appear on your page 6, Mr. Spacek, the comps average to 18.83 and a weighted average of 18.01. You have two. Okay, I'll go back. My first question is, do any of those comps include a blended rate, or is that the floor space retail rate in all, or do you know?
From my understanding, all of these are like same, say Marshalls, Home Hardware, similar types of buildings are all, this is all the leased space for the building that they get. So it's the whole, it's not just sales floor. I believe they all get their area, and how much of it includes back room space that they store stuff. It's all just included in there, and I don't have a split for any of them on what that is, but this is the net rents that they pay for the whole area they have.
So those net rents would, you believe, include a blended rate for
Yeah,
lesser?
it's for the whole space of that they have, and I just don't know how much of that is the back room and how much of it is the sales floor.
Okay, leading to my second question, with respect to the mezzanine area that you have allocated at $9.44 per square foot, where does that number come from?
The mezzanine space and like that basement space is again a model driven rent based on, we do have storage space sent out in mailers. So when we receive net rents back, there are for some are basement space, some are storage space, and it'll be derived from those net rents that are sent in on those mailers.
Okay, the mezzanine space here, you said had been divided into where it was previously the total 21,000 and change to the 15 and the 6. The 6,000 square feet, is that the second story that can be seen in the pictures? I think it's on page 3. To the right of the existing building, it looks like there's the second story, or is that basement or a combination of both?
It's from my understanding, the 6,000 is and 2,300 is just second floor space. So, it's it allows for us to generate that lower, in this case, that lower rent for that second floor. And it's for it to be shown like when it's split up like this, instead of looking at that blended of 1243.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, and you answered my question about the huts and whatnot at the
Yeah,
back. Anything further? Thank you.
thank you.
And Mr. Spacek, I'm going to assume you did not have a chance to inspect this property?
No, I haven't been to any on the docket today.
Okay, do you know when it was last inspected?
It's a good question. I don't know off the top of my head the last time it was inspected. No.
Okay, and in terms of location, you said this was at the corner, did you, have Lage and Fermor?
Vermore, yeah, it's in that area between those two.
Okay.
Like the northeast corner.
Right, okay, so would this property be visible from either of those two main arteries?
Good question. I've never really looked for it. It's definitely tucked away in there. Like it's, you're not driving by and seeing a big Harley Davidson sign on Fermor. You'd have to know it's there and be going
Yeah.
about by a motorcycle, I imagine.
So would you consider Niagara Road East a secondary road?
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I wouldn't consider it a main road.
Okay, so visibility then is in question, correct?
Yeah, for sure. I don't think this is I don't think they're looking for that. Yeah, it's not as visible as going down Nairn or even on Fermor.
And I think you had indicated that there are other commercial properties on this street, and do you know what they are? Are there other dealerships there?
You know what? I'm not familiar exactly with it. I just know I had the building right beside it on appeal with Marcelo before, and there it was like, from my understanding, like almost like a cell phone service place. It was some sort of service place, and then I know there's a like an appliance, for example, more industrial. They are an LG authorized appliance place, stuff like that are the few things I know on there, but I don't know of any other dealerships on there. No.
All right, I thank you. Mr. Navarro, if you would like to give us your brief.
Okay. The first thing that I'll ask is whether you have the updated or the revision to the valuation.
Yes, we do.
Okay. Okay, so this is 1377 Niagara Road East, and I will just glance over some of the information on this report and go directly to page 6, where you see the property site maps. And you can see the general location of the property Clearly, you can see that it would be hard to see from the highway for more if you were traveling east or west. And I think Mr. Spacek alluded to this, that you would really have to know that this place is located there to visit it. The next page over, you can see a closer look at it. And on page 8, you'll see like the bird's eye view of it. So this is a 2005 built building. Originally, I wasn't entirely convinced that there was a second story on this, or a mezzanine. So I actually did go visit this place just to have a walkthrough, and I realized that there is a mezzanine there. So I added the additional space in there. That is the reason for the correction. In terms of its location, you can see that it's located essentially in an industrial area. And if you strip away the use, which is currently the use is a VCD, which is a dealership, this really is a flex warehouse that could be used for many different purposes. It is essentially an industrial building that's being used as a dealership in an industrial area. In terms of its highest and best use, its current use appears to be the highest and best use. In terms of the valuation, well, we are using the income approach. On page 13, you can see some of the comparisons that we've used. We're leaning towards industrial, and these comparisons are not that far away on Do Gold Debates. These are larger and some smaller industrial buildings. Some of them are actually similar use, would be considered a VC or a vehicle dealership, but not necessarily a motorcycle or car dealership. So the rent that we've applied to this is $12 per square foot. And you can see that in our workup. That is for the 15,120. For the mezzanine storage, which is 6,023, we've applied half of the rate of the main level. And that brings the blended rent down to $10.29 per square foot over the 21,143 square feet. Why we adjust the mezzanine storage area? Our thought process is that it's just not as valuable as some would say it is. It's an additional feature that some might find useful, but for the most part, I don't think you're going to be paying the same rate that you would for, say, the main level. And that is generally where the main charge is on the main level, the 12,000 or the 15,120 square feet. So it's not a nominal amount that we've put it in there. We've just essentially cut it in half, saying that it doesn't have as much value as the main floor. In terms of vacancy, this is a market vacancy, 2%. Shortfall is $6, and management and other, we've used 3% on this. And in terms of the capitalization rate, I've used a cap rate of 7%. So I've come up with a value of $2,918,464. You'll note one thing in terms of the non-recovered expense allowance. Typically what we used is the 7%. So that would be the 2% structural and the 5% non-recoverable. In this instance, I've adjusted it as well to 1% and 2%. Now, in terms of the non-recoverables, I think many of you have already seen our study. We note that we always add an adjustment to the cap rate. So essentially what I'm saying here is that the cap rate that I effectively used in this instance was 6.75, and it was adjusted upward by 25.7%. So that is where I'm at, 2,918,464, rounded down to 2,918,000. And that is my presentation.
Thank you. Mr. Spacek, questions?
I have no questions. Thank you, Madame.
Mr. Whitbread?
Just a little bit confused, Marcelo. Page 15, I'm looking at market value 2336 as opposed to 2918. Is there a typo somewhere, or am I missing something?
I'm guessing that you are looking at the unrevised valuation. So there was a revision that was passed out to everyone.
I thought I had that.
Mr. Whitbread, it shows up in the SharePoint as item number 3 corrected.
Yeah.
You just might have to expand it a little to see the word corrected.
I may have to. And is it at the bottom of the page, Nicole?
It should refresh. It depends on your SharePoint. If you refresh it, it should come with the other items.
I have it.
The other item 3s.
Yeah.
But everybody's is a bit different. My apologies. I'm not sure.
No, I've got it now. Thanks a lot.
Okay, wonderful.
Sorry, Marcelo. I see your numbers now. Thank you.
Okay.
I have no further questions.
And Mr. Mann?
Just a couple of questions, sir, with respect to the comps on page 13. The average that you've used is with respect to the auto use around the city. Are these comps that you've used 8 through 14, are they all part retail, part service?
No, the ones that are auto use would have a small office component and a repair component.
Okay.
The 1 through 9 would be industrial, and they would have an industrial component and an office component, and some of them would have also a retail component.
And the looking, I guess, focusing on numbers 8 through 14, the net rent per square foot, is that a blended rate that would include a retail portion as well as, to use the term I've been using, rightly or wrongly, the mezzanine portion or the storage portion or the office portion? Is that a blended rate that's shown there, or is that just the strict retail rate, for want of a better word?
Okay, so this is for comparisons 8 through 14?
Yes.
Okay, so in those comparisons, because we're actually taking them from actual leases, they're actually stating to us what the area is. So it's accounting for everything. Another thing is that I believe all of these 8 through 14 do not have mezzanines. They're just a main level. So in that sense, the mezzanine component, we don't have a good comparison for that in terms of these comparisons that we have here.
Okay, and the reason I asked is because the first line underneath the area and that market rent per square foot says, based on the samples above, we have applied a rent of $12 blended. Does that not mean mezzanine and the retail, or is that just a
No, what that means is the blend between the I don't know, I think I've heard some people call it the dirty component and the clean component. Do you understand?
Yes, I've heard that a couple times
Okay.
today already too.
Okay, so that's essentially what I mean by that, is that I'm blending the rent between actually, I think it's more correct to say a retail use and industrial use, or an office use and industrial use. It's simply the blended rent. So in those instances, we get no separation in the leases. to get to your point, I could have left that word out of there.
Okay, no, I was just curious about,
Yeah.
We seem to be using the term blended in a number of different contexts here, or at least I had understood that. So I just wanted
Sure.
to
Sure.
sure that the blended
Yeah.
rate to which we're talking for the final valuation is one that has a mezzanine rate at a certain level, typically between 50% and 70 or 66 and 2/3% of the leasable floor main area.
Correct. I would say it's more accurate to use the term for what you just stated. If you're going to blend the rates between, say, a mezzanine and a main area, probably more appropriate. That's more just, I think, Marcelo at work there. I could have just as easily left that word out of there.
Well, I just,
It would
as
have
long as
caused,
we're on the same page,
Yeah.
that's good.
Yeah.
Thank you. That was the main source of my confusion here. I don't have anything further. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you. Mr. Navarro, just a couple of questions. You've inspected the property, I believe you stated.
Yes, I walked through it. Not the entirety. I wasn't able to book an appointment with the owner, so I just decided to go shopping for a motorcycle, and I did. I walk around the property and I walked through the showroom area.
All right. Could you speak to the overall condition?
I mean, it's a typical flex warehouse. It's newer, 2005. I think that's the reason why I adjusted the rent. So if you see the comparable rents from my comparisons, you see that they are lower, and that is, I think, due to the fact that they are somewhat older buildings, the comparisons, and also in terms of the, I mean, that would be the main part of it, but also the construction was, it's fairly good. It's a modern flex style building.
All right. And did you have a chance to look at the mezzanine?
No, that I didn't, but I could see that there was a mezzanine there. And I believe initially I noted that I wasn't entirely convinced that there was a mezzanine in the building. I thought it might have been just sometimes in these flex warehouses, you'll see that the roof is higher in some parts. It allows for more sunshine to come in through the windows. And I thought that's what it was, but there is actually a mezzanine there. So I was able to confirm that.
Oh, okay, but you don't know what's up there.
No, from what I understand, it's mainly storage.
Okay. Could you observe if it was racking or no?
No, not racking. No, it's an actual mezzanine area.
All right. I thank you. Does either party have a wish for a summation?
I don't need one, thank you.
No, I'm fine, thank you.
All right, I thank you both. We'll move on to item number 4 then, on Dougal 1370, and Mr. Spacek, whenever you are ready.
All right. Let me open this one up. I've misplaced it already. Okay, 1370 Dougal. We're looking at file number 23-304. This is roll number 0609346217, 1370 Dougal Road. Again, we're at the 2024 assessment, $2,867,000. Again, this is kind of a piecework building. It was originally built in 1974 with some additions over the year. The most recent in 2003, but it has a combination of all of it together with an effective year of 1979. We have 20,652 leasable square feet. If you look at the bottom of page 2 or the top of page 2, you can see this is located on Dougal Road. It is known as GNR Camping World. So again, it is a dealership, but again, off our usual routes on Dougal, and it sells camping, RVs and trailers and things of those nature. If you look at the top of page 2, you can see how long the lot is, where they store much of their vehicles, and then the main building itself towards the road. Page 3 gives a better view of this. Page 4, I've crossed out there is a post-reference sale there, not important. We have page 5 is the income workup for this property. So again, we have all 20,652 square feet at $10.13. So that's model driven, and then it follows our VCD standards, or the ones that are been used for 2023. 2% vacancy loss, 3% expenses, $6 shortfall, and a 6.85% cap rate. This is where we get that total value of $2,867,000. Again, same comparables as all before. Total weighted average of 1801, but again, none are on Dugald, and these are larger big box retails, more for main routes. If we turn to page 10, you can see the mailer that was sent in. So this is an interesting one because there is an actual net rent in place. It works out to approximately, at the bottom of page 2, they pay $15,601.60 a month for 21,475 square feet. That works out to about $8.72 a square foot. So our model has this one at 10.13, and then there was a lease signed for 2020 at $8.71 a square foot. And they have sent in their COVID questionnaire starting on page 11, but again, they haven't filled out. They just said they were closed temporarily. And then it says on question 7 on page 12, the first question is, between January 1st, 2020 and April 1st, 2021, were new leases negotiated? And it says, yes, a new agreement was negotiated due to a change in ownership of the landlord's company. This was not related to COVID-19. So, and then question 10, tenant is claiming CERS for periods they qualify. So that was the update from the COVID questionnaire. And if you have any questions, please let me know. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Navarro, did you have questions?
Yes. Going to your page 10, can you state again what the rate per square foot is based on the lease that's in place?
I had the monthly rent of 15,601.60 with the area of 21,475, works out to $8.72. Unless I did that math wrong.
Okay. And the lease was commenced in late 2020?
Yes.
Okay. I guess the glaring question is why the model overestimates the rent so high.
I mean, I think for a property on Dugald, for a lease at New York, it's just over $1 off. I don't think it's that wild, to be honest.
Okay. You'll note that there is 14.90 as the land to building ratio.
Yeah.
Okay, and that is quite high, but would you agree that for the most part, this is actually just excess land surplus land, not really excess land?
Yeah, it's pretty similar for the area, and if you look along the pictures, you can see a lot of it is similarly used for storage at the back. It's not an area where they're building multifamily buildings behind these, like off of McPhillips and stuff like that, where the land is
Right.
most likely a little more valuable.
Right, and you would agree that there's no access in the back, correct?
Yeah, there's no road back there. It would be
so-
you'd need
so-
another entrance on that second lot they own.
Okay, so clearly what we're talking about here is surplus land, not excess land, correct?
Yeah, and we're not valuing it as extra, so.
Okay. And that is those are my questions. Thank you.
Thank you. And Mr. Mann, any questions?
Just with respect to the land, the 14.9 land plan ratio, and the surplus characteristic of it, from the pictures, it would appear that there are a lot of trailers, a lot of storage being used behind the building that's fronting Dugald. Those aren't all inventory, are they? Aren't some of those at least storage for consumers or people that are buying that storage area?
You know what? I'd be lying if I told you I know. I don't know the camping world. I imagine they might have some for storage. I don't know what their situation is.
I won't pursue that any further then. Thank you. That was my only question.
Thank you. And Mr. Whitbread?
I have none, thank you.
I also have no questions at this time. Mr. Navarro, if you would like to proceed with your brief.
Okay, 1370 Dugald Road, and you can see a picture, an overhead picture on page 6. See the general location. This is just east of La Gemaudier, and it is RV dealership, sales related, repair related. The age is between 1974 and 2003. I believe the effective age is 1979. So when you bring those effective ages together, it gives you a blended rate, or, sorry, a blended age of 1979. We have 19,544 square feet. I know the lease says differently. I don't know. I'm actually not sure which one is the correct one, because we are taking it from the plans, but the owner reported a slightly different area. So, I mean, it could be the owner's interpretation, and it may be correct, but based on the plans, we only had 19,544 on it. I believe, yeah, and the plan area actually says 19,544. So the remainder may be a small mezzanine area. That's about all I can say regarding that. In terms of the rental rate, we've used a rental rate of $10.50 per square foot over the 19,544 square feet. I think that's a fairly healthy rent, considering that the actual rent is, I believe, $8 and something cents, what Mr. Spacek quoted. So you can see that we're not even paying attention to the fee simple on this, or sorry, the lease interest on this. We are strictly valuing it by market. In terms of the vacancy allowance, we used 2%. Shortfall was $6 per square foot. And I will just make sure that, yeah, in this case, we did use the 5% and the 2% on non-recovered expenses, and a capitalization rate of 7.50. That gives us a value of $2,462,466, rounded to $2,463,000. And that is my presentation. I'm open for questions.
Thank you, Mr. Spacek.
I have no questions. Thank you.
Mr. Whitbread
I have none, thank you.
and Mr. Mann.
Just one with respect to the lease. Is that an arm's length lease or is this family related?
You make a valid point. I think it may be, and that may be the reason that I actually deviated from it.
Okay.
So I made sure. Regardless of what it is, I deviated from it anyways. So I think the rent that I have is representative of it. The area, I'm still not sure about who is correct on this. That's about it.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
I have further.
Thank you. Mr. Navarro, did you happen to have a chance to inspect this property?
So I had been in this property about 2 years ago. I don't recall a mezzanine. I don't have a memory of it. I recall inspecting right through it and the garage portions and all of that, the servicing center. I can't remember really whether there was a mezzanine area. That could account for the difference.
Okay. Thank you. Does either party have a wish for a summation?
I'm fine. Thank you for asking.
No, I'm fine. Thank you.
All right.
Madam Chair, could I ask for a 7 to 10 minute recess?
Absolutely.
Thank you, I appreciate that.
Just take a 10-minute recess. You. I would like to call this hearing back to order. And we are going to proceed to item number 5, which is on Pembina Highway. Mr. Spacek, whenever you are ready to proceed.
All right. Thank you very much. We're starting with 222 Pembina Highway, I believe. This is file number 23-315, roll number 1209780430. We have a 2024 assessed value of $1,724,000. And you can see, following with our theme of the day, we have a vehicle dealership on Pembina. This is 222 Pembina. If you turn to page 2, you'll see the corner of Jesse and Pembina. We have a 7,000 square foot dealership built in 1977 with effective year of 1981. This is the Ram dealership, as you can see on the bottom of page 2. And you get another aerial photo on page 3. And I believe our next property is our next problem is 300 Pembina, which is again common ownership, but it's on a separate lot. So I'll get to that when I get there. But for this property itself, we have page 5 to show the income workup for our vehicle dealership. We have 7,000 square feet at $16.45. And this is a vacancy loss of 2%, expenses of 3%, shortfall of $6, and a capitalization rate of 6.3%. That's where we get that total value of $1,724,000. And again, if you look at page 6 for our list of big box retailers on major streets, we have an average weighted rental rate of $18.01. If we turn to page 10, we've included the 2020 INE, which again, this is an owner occupied property. We have Murray Chrysler Dodge Jeep and Ram. And again, at the current time, they have put in a 2-year lease from 19 to 21. But from my understanding, it is a book rent. Sorry, I just lost my page here. If we turn to page 11, so what I noticed on this one is there was a multi-roll sale for this property. So if we look, well, we won't look, but on my page 4, March 7th, 2018, there was a sale of $8,735,000, and I was curious about it, so I looked it up to see what the deal was with it. I did find it was between 2 unrelated parties using company search when the sale was analyzed, and then we also send out the mailer like a couple properties ago, so the mailer was filled in. Again, the value of this property isn't based on the mailer, but this is what was sent in and said about that sale if anybody had any questions about it. So there's a multi-roll sale, and I'll show you where those rolls are in a moment, but if we turn to my page 11, what is the sale price? Is the sale price shown above the actual price paid? Yes. If no, enter the correct amount. On what day was the sale agreed upon? March 1st, 2018. Question 3, was a sale an arm's length open market transaction? We have yes. Question 4, were any items other than real estate included in the purchase price? No. Again, question 5, there was no appraisal attached. Question 6, there was no leaseback. Question 7, it was a full interest sale. Yes. Question 8, is there a single lease covering any or all of the buildings? So at the time for a lease covering all the buildings within that multi-roll mailer. Question 9, is the land lease involved? And they put yes. So they're clarifying that 499 Warsaw, which is a parking lot it's a parking lot that is just to the south of the property. It's at the corner of Pembina and Warsaw. That's 499 Warsaw. You can see on my page 2 at the top. And then if you look south of that, our next property is the dealership that is just south of that. So those 3 lots were included in the sale, the 2 dealerships, the parking lot. And then there is a smaller, a very small lot with the white. It is a small building on it. It's hard for me to explain. I wish I had marked it for everyone, but if you look at my page, the top of my page 2, right where the roll number is in the middle of the page, just under that is a very small lot, and that is known as 471 Warsaw. So again, all four of those were included in the sale, and I can go over that more in depth after as well if that didn't clarify it at all for you. But it was just saying there is a land lease involved in the parking lot between. It's included in the lease that was in place at the time. And then 10, 11, and 12 are all answered no. Those are the ones about the purchaser being occupying any part of the property. And then does the purchaser intend to occupy any all of the property? So no, there. So the lease there, it's being leased out. And question 12, does the purchaser intend to use the property for a new business? No. And then just property characteristics, which is section C. What was the property used for at the time of sale? Auto dealership. Is the intended use of this property the same? Yes. What is the condition? Question 15. Good. And then question 16. Do you intend to make any major repairs or improvements? No. Do you intend to demolish or any of the structures on the property? No. And do you intend to subdivide all or part of the property? No. So it just has a explanation at the bottom of that page, on the bottom of page 11. So multi-role transaction, price covers 222 Pembina, which is our appeal now, 300 Pembina, which is our next appeal, and then 499 Warsaw, which is that little parking lot in between the two lots, but that is not under appeal today. And then it just says number 2, annual lease of 624,896 applies to these 3 properties plus 471 Warsaw. And 470 Warsaw is just that little property at the back that I showed you under the roll number on page 2 in the middle of that picture. So again, it's just, again, total sale. It has it split up on page 12, that 300 Pembina, 222 Pembina, and 499 Warsaw sold for 8,735,000, and then that smaller lot at the back sold for 785. And that's what the questionnaire answers. If there is any questions about that sale at all, that's what I had to show. So if there are any other questions on this one, please let me know. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Navarro, any questions? Oh, you're muted.
Okay. As with the other properties that we've looked at already, most of the comparisons that you've used here in terms of your page 6 are community, regional, and power centers, correct?
Correct.
And this is not that, correct?
Yeah, this is Pembina, closer to downtown, near Confusion Corner. Not the same as a power center on, say, Polo Park or Kildonan Park.
Okay, so have you been inside of this location?
I've never been in these dealerships.
Okay. And those are my questions. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Whitbread
No, I'm fine, thank you.
and Mr. Mann.
My question is with respect to the cap rates and the table that you have on your page 8, Mr. Spacek. The model has come with a cap rate of 6.30. Where would that fall in the cap rate table that you have? Or is it a part industrial, or is it all retail? Is it some kind of or can you answer that?
Yeah, I think exactly. I can't give you the definite answer of exactly where it comes from in the model. If we're looking, I know I have used retail, and from my understanding, it is, baseline based on retail. If we look at regional RSC under the retail, it's between our 20th percentile is between 6.1 and 7.2. So it's on the low end of that in our 20th percentile within our 2 ends of the 20th percentile. And then the power center is 6.35, 6.95. So my guess is it's taken from the regional on the low end is for its location on Pembina, but that would be my best guess.
Okay, thank you. I don't have anything further.
Thank you. Mr. Spacek, I believe you stated earlier that you did not personally inspect any of the properties on the docket today, but can you tell me when this property was last inspected?
Good question. I actually don't know.
Okay, so then I am just curious in regards to this was model driven, correct?
Yes, yeah.
So if it has a year built of 77, but then it has an effective age of 81, is that not a curious thing for a dealership to have like a 42-year-old age?
Like, I mean, this is an older building on Pembina. If you look at my picture on the bottom of page 2, and I look at it, I'm looking, oh, that's not the original building, like the Ram, like that's not how it looked in 1977. So I'm assuming there were some, small upgrades over the years to bring it as it is, and then that has been reflected in the effective year by being slightly higher.
Okay. Thank you. That's all my questions. Mr. Navarro, if you would like to proceed with your brief.
We're looking at 222 Pembina Highway, and you can see a picture of it in general location on page 6. It's a small building just south of Confusion Corner. I have been in this building very recently, and what I can say about it is that it is the used truck dealership. It's used for used truck sales, and it's also used for parking. The majority of this building is actually, what would you call it, detailing and washing, servicing of vehicles for that. So it has several wash bays and detailing bays there in the back. So the large portion of that, as a percentage, I would say probably at least 70% of it is that. Parking also. And in the front area, there's a small retail area with a small office space as well. So unlike some of the other dealerships that we've you may have seen in past hearings, this is not your atypical building. It's quite small, and it has quite a small retail and office space area. As I mentioned, most of it is actually dedicated towards detailing. So in that sense, it's very much like I don't know, a small shop, whether you want to look at it as an industrial or a retail shop. In terms of the income approach, if you turn to page 13, we have a rent of $15.78 on it. We looked at some rents that are close by. You can see that the average was $15.78 of those three. That's what I took it from. We don't have a rent for this. In terms of the vacancy allowance, 2%, shortfall $6 per square foot. We've gone with the same non-recoverable expense allowance of 7%, and that also includes the 2% for structural reserve. And in terms of the capitalization rate, 7.25. So several reasons for the higher cap rate. First of all, it's an older building. It's predominantly, as I said, predominantly used for detailing work. So it's more garage than, say, showroom and office space. And, I know a few people have tried to convince me otherwise. I just don't think this is a great location for any type of dealership. I'm not convinced that, this side of Pembina is that great of a location. That's my opinion. But most of the capitalization rate adjustment that I've made is based on the building itself and the age of it. So I've gone with a slightly higher capitalization rate. I come up with a value of $1,377,976, rounded to $1,378,000. That's the presentation. I'm open for questions.
Thank you. Mr. Spacek
I have no questions. Thank you.
and Mr. Whitbread
I have none, thank you.
and Mr. Mann.
Back to cap rates upgrade. I see that, and thank you for the explanation with respect to how you arrived at the 7.25% cap. But you've included on your page 14 both the retail cap rates and the industrial cap rates. Is this a blended amount of the Class B in the industrial cap rate and a standard quantity or standard quality retail cap rate? Or how did you arrive, I guess, mathematically or otherwise, to the 7.25% cap rate?
I would say that you're going in the right direction and you're following what I was thinking. So there is no specific methodology for putting a cap rate on a car dealership. It's not, detailed in any type of literature. So we're kind of coming up with something here. And I think a blend of the two. There are, and I will make a distinction between this and, say, there are some properties that we've looked at where they're selling vehicles, but they're predominantly in an industrial area. For example, the Harley Davidson dealership. I would say that is an industrial building in an industrial area where they just happen to be selling motorcycles out of. Whereas this has been a car dealership for a very long time. In terms of today's standard, it's not a great location in terms of selling vehicles. It's just a used car dealership in my opinion. But the retail component and the industrial components, yes, I am effectively blending those two together. And coming up with something that makes sense to me in terms of the age and the location, and the construction quality of the building. So to answer your question, yes, I am blending these essentially, yes.
Okay, thank you. That was my only question.
Mr. Navarro, so you were in this property and you said that there was a small office and a retail component.
Yeah, I would. Sorry, go ahead.
Just within the retail component, there were, I'm gonna say, used trucks on display.
No, it's more of a selling area. So booths and stuff like that, and office component. The sales are actually outside. So if you see the front of the building, you'll see that that's where the trucks are parked. They're serviced in the back. So, for example, a truck comes off of lease, it goes to the back of the building where it's prepped and put on the front lawn.
Okay, thank you. Just in regards to your page 13, and I'm sorry, you may have stated this and I've missed it, but your leases on Pembina North at 555 Pembina and 460, are those
Auto use?
yes.
Yes.
Okay.
There's a Midas, just give me a second. I will tell you what the other ones are. Uh, 555 is a Midas. 440 is a Speedy, and 715 is D-Lon. It's a used car dealership with a service center in the back. I believe at one time it used to be a Suzuki dealership way back when.
Okay. Thank you. That's all my questions. Does either party have a wish for a summation?
I do not. Thank you.
Nope, do not.
Okay. Thank you. We will move on to item number 6, 300 Pembina. Mr. Spatzer, whenever you are ready.
Thank you very much. We are now at 300 Pembina, file number 23-382, roll number 12097804-285. This is the 2024 assessment as well, valued at $5,987,000. So this property is originally built 1963. It also has a it has builds updated all the way up till 1999. You can see there's actually two portions of this property. One is more of a collision center at the back of the property, if you look at the top of page 2, and then the actual Chrysler, Dodge, Jeep, Ram dealership itself is the larger portion building. We have all of it under 1 square footage for this property. So if we turn to page 5, we have 34,452 with a blended rate of, or we just have a total rental rate for all of the property at $13.38. Our standard dealership parameters, again, 2% vacancy, 3% expenses, $6 shortfall, and a 7.25% cap rate. This is where we get that total value of $5,987,000. So this is the other property that was part of that multi-role sale. It's across Warsaw. You can see, so if you look at my page, top of page 2 quickly, it'll give you the best view. So the property you just heard was north across that lot I was talking about at Warsaw and Pembina, and then this one is south at the corner of Warsaw and Pembina, this dealership. I've went over how it's been valued. Again, same INE sent in, very similar. Minor impact on the COVID questionnaire, and I've just included the same sales questionnaire as part of that multi-role sale. So that's all been gone over. So if you have any more questions, please let me know. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Navarro.
You're muted.
Aha. Okay.
Mhm.
So, you know, I don't try and draw comparisons between the properties, but in terms of the capitalization rate, what I find interesting and is why there's such a difference in terms of the last property that we looked at, the cap rate, and this one, which is a full service dealership. It's larger, it has more to offer, but yet the cap rate is 7.25 for this one. Can you explain why the model might be doing this?
Yeah, absolutely. In a case like this with separate buildings with different ages, again, it's you can see the effective year built for the one building is 1963, and then the newer one is 1999. So the other one was in, I believe, 1980s for both. This is a much larger. So even though it might be as a dealership larger, is in this case 30,000 square feet, probably better than 7,000. It just sees one large portion of 34,452 square feet, which usually would drive the cap rate up as it's more space to rent, more to take care of, etc. And then, yeah, the combination of that with age is what's bringing the cap rate up. And again, I can't tell you exactly why, but that's my understanding of how our model works and why that cap rate would be higher than if we're comparing it to the last property.
Okay, thank you.
And Mr. Whitbread?
That was my question as well. Answered. Thank you.
Thank you. And Mr. Mann?
I don't have any questions, thank you.
I also have no questions. Mr. Navarro, if you'd like to proceed.
Sure. So this is 300 Pembina Highway, and this is a Murray G. Chrysler dealership. You can see on page 6 the general location of the property. Again, this is also south of Confusion Corner, very close to the property that we just looked at before this one. On page 6, you can see the collision center in the back. And I'll just break apart the two buildings. So you'll see the main dealership, which faces Pembina Highway. So that one, actually, we'll start off with the one in the back. The back portion is a collision center. So this property has vehicle maintenance, so that would be oil changes and stuff like that, and then it would have major repairs also. So it would have the lifts and all of those things in the rear portion of the property for heavy repairs, alongside the lighter repairs, which are like maintenance stuff. And then in the back portion, there is the building on page 8, which is the collision center. So the collision center is roughly 7,280 square feet, built in 1971. The remainder of the 34,000 the remainder of the square footage is actually attributed to the front part of the property, which is the dealership that faces Pembina Highway. In terms of the rents, well, we drew from rents from the area. These are smaller locations, but we do go much higher than we thought we would have. So we're at $12.80 per square foot for the full 34,452 square feet. And, you know, of course, you may be asking, well, the rents for the other properties are at 1973, 1644, 1116. What I would say about those is that they're, for the most part, significantly smaller. So that is why we are also adjusting the size of the rent. So we come up with a rent of $12.80. Vacancy 2%, same as the city. Shortfall is $6 per square foot. Non-recoverables, again, that is 7%, including the 2% other, and a capitalization rate of 7.25. That gives us a value of $5,486,621. I'm open for questions now.
Thank you. Mr. Spacek?
I have no questions, thank you.
And Mr. Mann? Oh, you're muted.
Sorry, I'm just looking at the difference in the NOI, and the difference in the NOI would appear to me. Thank you. No, I have no questions. Thank you. Sorry for ruminating like that.
Thank you. And Mr. Whitbread?
No, thank you.
Mr. Navarro, just one question. Did you have a chance to inspect this property?
Yes. Yeah. I did walk through it last week.
Okay. Can you speak to the condition?
It's a modern dealership. It's been upgraded. So in that sense, it does kind of mirror many more modern dealerships. However, what I will note about this building is that in some areas you can see the age of it. And I'll note back that, you know, this building was built in sections starting in 1963. And in fact, the largest component of it was built in 1963, at least the front part of it. So there were additions built to it at a much later date, which, you know, kind of make it look more modern. But again, we are dealing with an older building. And in terms of the collision center in the back, that again is an older building built in 1971. So while, you know, cosmetically it looks nice, structurally it is an older building. That's not entirely why I'm adjusting, for example, the cap rate. Like I said before, with the previous location, I don't think this is a great location for a car dealership, but that's my opinion. I think 7.25 is appropriate, but yes, I guess getting back to your original question, which I completely forgot. Yes, I was in this building.
Okay. Sorry, so you said that when you went through, you could see that the building was showing its age. Could you just be a little more specific?
Yeah, so it's, I mean, it's a well-built building. It's masonry wall. But yeah, you can tell that certain sections of it in the rear are older, as opposed to the front sections, which are much newer. I believe the front section was built in 1999. So it looks much newer up front than it does in the back. And I don't know if you've ever been in a building where you transition from one area to another, where you have a much newer portion in one area and a much older portion in the other area. That's what this building is. So, and again, in the rear building, which is the collision center, that is I mean, you can see it from street view. It's an older looking building.
All right, I thank you. Does either party have a wish for a summation?
Nope, I'm
I
fine.
do not need one, thank you.
All right, thank you both. We will move on to our last property, which is 660 Pembina, and Mr. Spacek, whenever you're ready.
Thank you. I'm just opening this up. I need one moment. I would just ask preliminarily, just my page 4, if you could just take it off. I accidentally left a post reference sale, and I just don't want it to. I won't speak to it, or just just throw it out of there. It was not meant to be put in there on purpose. It's just auto populated, and yeah. So just if you could just take page 4 out, I would appreciate that.
All right. We'll just ignore that panel then, please. If you'd like to proceed.
Thank you. So we have a file number 23-305. This is roll number 1201340210, address 660 Pembina Highway. We have a 2024 value of $5,792,000. Again, this is a, if you look at the top of page 2, we have a Volkswagen dealership and collision center as the large portion building. And then the smaller one was, I know at one point, a Porsche dealership. I currently do not know what it's as, or if it says something else now, because I know Porsche did get a new dealership. So its current tenant, I am not sure of. But for, again, multiple buildings on this lot, the breakdown of it for the, again, there's total leasable area across the 2 buildings is 27,000. If we look at my page 3, I've included another aerial photo so you can see the main Volkswagen dealership and collision center, and then the secondary dealership on the same lot there. If you turn to my page 5, the way this is broken down is we have 3 premises for this property. So we have a main premise for we have 18,765 square feet at $15.88. We also have a storage mezzanine portion at a $11.26 a square foot, and then we have a separate standard finish for the other dealership at 2,862 square feet, and that's the smaller size is bringing that up to $19.63. Following the rest of our vehicle dealership parameters, we have a 2% vacancy loss, 3% expenses, $6 shortfall, and then a 6.75% cap rate. And again, we're now at 660 Pembina, so we were farther south down Pembina than we were talking about at our last property. And if we scroll down this one, I just have an older mailer from 2020. Again, this is pre-sale, but the unknown, like expenses are unknown as tenant is responsible. It just looks like there's a land lease in place because 2.1 acres is under the total leasable. Again, they did have some sort of lease put down on here for 2012 to 2022. And then the COVID questionnaire, they just had minor impact. They put on question 6, a portion of the base payments were deferred over a 6-month period. A final catch-up was but it looks like it was repaid in December 2020, if I'm reading that correctly, and then no filled out for the rest. So again, minimal information sent in, but that is our model has valued these 2 buildings. If you have any questions, please let me know. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Navarro?
Yes. Here again, we have a full service dealership like the one that we saw just previously. Can you comment on the difference in terms of the capitalization rates? Because we're talking about I think that's about a 50-point spread between these 2 dealerships.
From the last one to this one?
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, again, the cap rate has compressed in this case, and it's again, it is as always a combination of the age, location, sizes. So it is taking, in this one we have separate buildings. We have separate, the largest one is 18,000 square feet. So we total at 27, which is still smaller than the last one. And that's going to compress that cap rate in a general sense. If that's exactly what happened here, I can't know. But again, a combination of the different effective years between the building. And I know the Volkswagen had an addition. The showroom was built as an addition in 2013, I believe. So again, the piecework building adds to those changes as well.
Okay, just to be clear, based on your comments, the model would be compressing the cap rate on the size of the building as well as on the rent.
In general, capitalization is based, it's not on the rent, it's based on the size, location, and ages. So I'm not saying the
Okay.
model has, but the rents are often, like on a separate note, rents based on size. Yes, you're going to find often in general a smaller size, easier to rent at a higher price, as opposed to a much larger square footage is economies of scale in general going to rent at a lower price if they're all else held equal.
Okay, those are my questions. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Whitbread?
No, again, that was my question on the cap rate. Thanks.
And Mr. Mann?
No, I don't have any questions. Thank you.
I just have one quick question, Mr. Spacek. Do you know when this property was last inspected?
I did not note that. Sorry, I don't know.
Okay. Would you happen to know, I think on your page 1, actual year built is 1971, and I'm assuming that is a portion. Do you know what the portion would be? Because it's 27,000 square feet total.
Yeah, I don't have the breakdown of exactly what was built when. I was trying to look that up. But I know the most recent, I hadn't written it down before. The most recent edition was completed April 2013. So yeah, that was the showroom addition to the collision center but originally I don't know like what part of that Volkswagen was built first and then which ages affect the Porsche dealership or what was that?
Okay, I thank you. Mr. Navarro, if you'd like to proceed.
Yeah. So this is 660 Pembina Highway. And I'm just quickly going to open up my review here. Sorry, if you just bear with me for a second here. Okay. On page 6, you can see the general location of it. So it is just a little bit south of the corner of Grant and Pembina Highway on the east side of Pembina Highway, basically abutting the CNR main line. On page 7, you can see an outside picture of it. And then you can see an outside picture of the Porsche dealership. As I understand, they're still selling Porsches out of here. I don't know how that's going to change in the future. On page 9, you can see the breakdown of the property. So the 1971 portion is the front portion, 17,037 square feet and 1,728 square feet of mezzanine for a total of 18,765. Then there is a portion built in 2004, 4,320 square feet, with a mezzanine also of 576. Another portion built in 2005, 475 square feet, and then again a portion built in 2013. I believe that is the Porsche dealership, 2862. And the total is 24,694 on the main area, 2,304 on the mezzanine. for a total of 26,998. Not much of a difference between that and what the city is using. So you'll see that the building ratio that we have is 4.03 to 1, which is again considered small. And then on page 13, you can see the rent comparables that we've used here. And we've obviously, in this case, blended the rent to $13.40 over the 26,998 square feet. I will note that this is the rent that was accepted by the Board of Revision for the 2023 business assessment. So in that, obviously, that is a different decision, but we use the same premise behind rents. We use market rents. In that instance, they agreed with us and applied $13.40 per square foot. So we continue to use that for the realty. And then for the vacancy, 2% shortfall, $6. Non-recoverables, 7%, and then cap rate of 7%. You can see the workup on page 15. We've got a value of 4,664,927 or 4,665,000 rounded. And I am open for questions.
Thank you. Mr. Spacek
I have no questions, thank you.
and Mr. Whitburn
I have none, thank you.
and Mr. Mann.
No, I don't have any questions. Thank you very much.
Mr. Navarro, did you happen to inspect this property?
No, but I have been in it. Actually a few times over the past year. So I have gone into both the Porsche section and the VW section. So I can speak to the showroom side of it.
Go ahead.
Again, very modern. It's been upgraded. And they have vehicles actually in the showroom area. I don't know what I can say about it. I bought a VW here once. So again, I have been in this place a few times.
Okay. Thank you. Mr. Spacek, I'm just going to redirect to you. Do you have a blended rate?
I could do that for you, no problem. One moment. Across everything, let me just put this in the calculator quick. You're looking at $15.36 across everything, across all 27,000 square feet.
Thank you for that.
No
Does
problem.
either party have a wish for a summation?
I do not.
I do not.
All right. All the items on the docket this morning, 1 through 7, have been heard. And this hearing is concluded. And I thank you, Mr. Spacek and Mr. Navarro, for your time this morning and your excellent presentations.
Thank you, everyone. Appreciate it. Have a great day.
Thank you.
Have a good day.
Have a great day, everyone.
Bye now.